LeBron James already made history by playing in the NBA with Bronny, and there's growing talk that he could do it again with Bryce. From extending his career long enough for Bryce to enter the draft, to the Lakers potentially bringing another James into the league, the pieces are already there. But there's one major problem with LeBron's plan. Here's what's happening. Let's start with where the two clocks actually stand, because this is the whole engine of the story. LeBron turned 41 in December of 2025. He just finished his 23rd NBA season, an all-time record that no one else in league history has touched. He played 60 games, didn't miss a single playoff appearance, and still averaged numbers most guys half his age would sign for. But after the Lakers were knocked out in the first round again, he stood in front of reporters and basically shrugged at his own future. He said, "I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Something I'll sit down with my family, my wife, and my support group, and kind of just talk through it and see what happens, and just have a conversation with myself on how long I want to continue to play. I don't know the answer to that right now, to be honest. So we'll see." That's not a man circling a retirement date on the calendar. That's a man who genuinely doesn't know, and that uncertainty is exactly why Bryce's timeline matters so much right now. Bryce is the one who actually has a hard number attached to him. He turned pro-eligible for the 2026 draft the moment he committed to college ball. But instead of testing that path early, he committed to the Arizona Wildcats in January 2025, part of Coach Tommy Lloyd's recruiting class. And in February, Lloyd said the 6'5" guard would redshirt his freshman season to give him options for his career. That redshirt wasn't a demotion, it was a chess move. Lloyd himself explained it plainly, saying the redshirting decision was just a long play to give Bryce the most options in his career as his career unfolds. I have real strong belief that Bryce will be a contributor at Arizona in the near future. He's really shown a lot of progress, not only learning our system, but just physically maturing. So while LeBron logged his 23rd season, not knowing if there'd be a 24th, Bryce logged a season where he didn't play a single competitive minute for his college team. Two clocks moving in completely different directions. And somewhere in the middle is the question every Lakers fan keeps asking on repeat. That question exploded into public view back in March, when a viral post claimed Bryce was skipping March Madness to prep for an early jump to the league. The post read that Arizona G Bryce James will forego the NCAA tournament to prepare for the 2026 NBA draft, and that the freshman guard averages 0.0 ppg and is currently mocked to the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round. It spread everywhere within hours, and the timing was brutal, landing right before Arizona tipped off in the tournament as the #1 seed in the West. It turned out to be a parody account stirring the pot. But here's the thing. A made-up post about Bryce declaring for the draft went viral instantly, and that alone tells you something. As one report on the rumor summed it up, a viral rumor involving Bryce James had taken over the basketball world, claiming the young prospect was set to enter the 2026 NBA draft, with the speculation spreading rapidly across social media, drawing massive attention due to his last name and connection to NBA superstar LeBron James. People aren't just curious about Bryce James, the prospect. They're obsessed with the idea of LeBron sticking around long enough to make a three-man James family reunion happen on an NBA hardwood. And LeBron has fed that obsession himself more than once. Years ago, before Bronny was even in the league, a Beats by Dre commercial had Savannah James listing off LeBron's accomplishments and telling him he wasn't done. Tell them you're not done until you play with your son. Then do that again. At the time, everyone assumed that meant Bronny. Then Bronny got drafted. The two of them made history together, and suddenly the same question got pointed at Bryce. An NBA executive who spoke to Lakers Daily put actual words to the theory that's been circulating in league circles. "I think LeBron plays 1 or 2 more seasons unless the Lakers win it all next year. Bryce James will be eligible for the 2026 draft. There are some whispers that LeBron wants to play with him too." The same executive added that the idea of LeBron walking away right before that door opens just doesn't sit well with some executives, saying we'll see what happens, but I just can't see LeBron retiring after next season. Even NBA insider Shams Charania weighed in on this exact dynamic, noting that LeBron's decision on whether to keep playing could hinge on wanting to play in the NBA with his second son Bryce, who is set to begin his collegiate career at Arizona this fall, with Bryce potentially draft eligible in 2026, meaning the Lakers star could be waiting to see what happens there with his son. So you've got league executives whispering it, a national insider floating it on air, and a viral hoax post proving just how badly the internet wants it to be true. That's the setup. Now let's get into why this isn't as simple as LeBron just deciding to wait around. To understand why this Bryce situation carries so much more tension than the Bronny one did, you have to go back to how straightforward Bronny's path actually was. Bronny spent one season at USC, entered the 2024 draft, and the Lakers scooped him up. The Lakers drafted Bronny with the number 55 pick, helping ensure the eldest James child would get to be in the NBA at the same time. As his legendary father, there was no red shirt, no long wait, no multi-year guessing game. LeBron wanted it. The front office made it happen fast, and a few months later, the two of them were checking into a game together at the scorer's table. Bryce is a different animal entirely, and it starts with recruiting. When he was choosing a college, Arizona received a commitment from Bryce James, and the 2025 prospect chose the Wildcats over offers from Duquesne and Ohio State, among others. Notice what's missing from that list. No Kentucky, no Duke, no blue blood program falling over itself for him. 247 Sports ranked him as the number 47 overall player in the class of 2025. At the shooting guard spot, solid, but nowhere near one and done. Lottery pick territory. Scout Adam Finkelstein, who's tracked him for years, put it about as honestly as anyone has. He wrote that Bryce James is the son of LeBron James, and that means, like his older brother Bronny, he's under the microscope, but he needs to be given time and space to run his own race, and he may not be the dynamic athlete or playmaker some expect at first. Though he is a fundamentally sound player with solid perimeter size and a good early skill set. That's scout language for talented, but not a guy anyone's rushing to the league. The physical scouting report backs that up. One draft profile described him as a high-level prospect, but far from a sure thing to make it to the league. A very skilled outside shooter with a soft touch and great-looking form. A big wing with a high skill level and a quickly improving game. But it also flagged the exact thing that separates him from his father and brother athletically. He's not an explosive athlete, and his lack of speed, bounce, and burst are his biggest drawbacks as an NBA prospect. That's the tension nobody online wants to admit when they're hyping up a 3 James reunion. Bronny's NBA path, whatever people thought of his college stats, still had an athletic base the league could squint at and see something. Bryce's path is built more on skill development than raw tools, and that kind of prospect needs reps, actual game minutes against real competition to prove it out, which is exactly why Arizona held him back. Head coach Tommy Lloyd wasn't hiding the ball on why. He's building one of the deepest rosters in the country every year, and Bryce walked into a roster loaded with close friends among Arizona's other targets, including elite 2025 point guard Braden Burries, alongside 5-star recruits like Koa Pete. There simply wasn't a clean runway for immediate minutes. So instead of forcing Bryce onto the floor and letting him get buried on the bench, the staff hit pause entirely before the announcement of his redshirt year. James did not appear in a single game for Arizona, and he'll likely make his collegiate debut next season, due to the expected departures of guards Burries and Jaden Bradley. Bryce himself has downplayed the whole spotlight conversation every time it comes up. Asked about handling the pressure of his name, he kept it simple. He isn't worried about living up to the expectations that come with his name, saying his focus is on using college to grow rather than spending time worrying about the future. Just being the best player I can possibly be. Just coming in here, working hard every day, being consistent with what I do, and it'll all turn out good. Fans watching from the outside picked up on the same theme fast. On Reddit threads breaking down Arizona's roster, commenters have repeatedly pointed out that Bryce's development curve looks nothing like Bronny's did, pointing to the red shirt as proof that Arizona is playing a genuinely longer game than USC ever did with his brother, treating this as a multi-year project instead of a one-and-done audition. So here's where the story actually splits from the fantasy. The reunion everyone's dreaming about isn't blocked by LeBron's willingness. It's blocked by Bryce's readiness. And that readiness is now tied to a redshirt clock that runs through at least the 2026-27 college season, which pushes any realistic draft entry to 2027 at the earliest, not 2026 like the hoax post claimed. That shift matters because it changes the whole math on LeBron's side too. If Bryce needs another full season at Arizona to prove himself before even declaring, that's not a short wait anymore. That's LeBron potentially needing to play into his mid-40s, just to have a shot at sharing a locker room with his youngest son. And that's where his own words start telling a very different story than the internet whispers. This is the part of the story that trips people up, because it's easy to assume LeBron is quietly plotting his whole career around this reunion. His actual public comments tell a much more complicated story. Go back to right after Bronny got drafted in 2024. Reporters asked Bryce, not LeBron, whether he thought his dad would stick around long enough to play with him too. Bryce didn't hesitate. "I'm not gonna lie, that's OD," Bryce said emphatically. "Nah, that's too much." "No, good Lord, he's going to be 42. That's Bryce's own brother's take on the odds, delivered with a laugh, but it set the tone for how the family has actually talked about this ever since. Skeptical, not scheming. Then fast forward to this past fall, right at the start of what would become LeBron's 23rd season. Reporters at Lakers Media Day asked him directly whether he'd delay retirement to play with Bryce. LeBron didn't dodge it. "No, I'm not waiting on Bryce," LeBron said. "I don't know what his timeline is. He's his own young man now. He's down in Tucson. We'll see what happens this year, next year, but he has his own timeline. I've got my timeline. I don't know if they quite match up. We'll see." That's about as direct a denial as you're going to get from a guy who usually plays things coy with the media. Compare that to how he used to talk about Bronny. Back when Bronny was still in high school, LeBron made his intentions completely obvious, saying playing alongside his oldest son would be a dream come true. And he leaned into that goal publicly for years before it happened. With Bryce, the tone flipped entirely. He's telling anyone who asks that their two schedules probably don't line up. Some outlets picked up on exactly this contrast. One breakdown of the Media Day exchange noted plainly that James struck quite a different tone. A few years ago, when asked about playing with Bronny, making it very clear that was a huge goal and one of his primary motivating factors that kept him playing even after hitting the 20-year mark. But it seems he views the situation with Bryce differently. That doesn't mean the dream is dead. It means LeBron is being careful not to overpromise something that depends on someone else's development, someone else's college coach, someone else's redshirt clock. He's watched Bryce's path up close enough to know it isn't guaranteed, and he's not going to stake his retirement decision on it publicly, even if privately the pull is real. And the pull clearly is real, because when he talks about Bryce's actual season at Arizona, the pride comes through completely differently than the "not waiting on him" line suggests. When Arizona won the Big 12 tournament this spring, LeBron got the news and lit up about it, saying, "I mean, listen, man, to have our kid be able to experience that, see the joy on his face, the happiness that he has being there at Arizona, learning from a lot of the vets and learning from some of the guys that he came into class with. I think it's a great experience, and it's going to pay dividends for him going into next year. But he's just living in the moment. So I'm definitely rooting for them in the tournament, and we see what happens." That's not the voice of a man who's indifferent to his son's basketball journey. It's the voice of a man separating two different things: genuine pride in Bryce's growth and a refusal to tie his own career decisions to somebody else's uncertain timeline. Those two things can both be true at once, and that's exactly the tension driving every headline about this. Fans have noticed the split too. On social media threads reacting to LeBron's Media Day comments, plenty of users pushed back on the idea that he'd ever walk away. From a shot at playing with both sons, with several drawing direct comparisons, to how confidently he used to talk about waiting for Bronny, arguing that his "I'm not waiting" line was more about managing expectations than a real closed door. So where does that leave the actual math? LeBron's contract situation and Bryce's college trajectory are about to collide in a very specific window, and that window is what the rest of this story hinges on. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the story stops being about feelings and starts being about logistics. LeBron is currently playing out a deal with the Lakers that keeps him in LA year to year, and reports before this past season indicated the team was prepared to offer him a 3-year max deal worth up to $160 million, a structure that would have let him play into his mid-40s if he wanted to. He didn't sign on for the full length of that, but the fact that the offer existed at all tells you the Lakers were building in enough runway to cover exactly this scenario. Now overlay that onto Bryce's actual college calendar. He redshirted through the 2025-26 season, meaning his first real minutes for Arizona come in 2026-27. scouts and insiders now peg his earliest realistic draft entry at 2027, not 2026. One report on his outlook after this most recent college season flatly stated that Bryce James, who just completed his freshman season at Arizona, did not enter the 2026 NBA draft, and perhaps he will in 2027, following his father and brother to the sport's highest level. That 2027 number is the one that actually matters here, far more than any of the 2026 hoax chatter. If Bryce declares in 2027 and a team drafts him the way the Lakers drafted Bronny, LeBron would need to still be playing in the 2027-28 season to share a locker room with him. He'll be 43 that season. Not impossible. He's already broken the all-time games played and seasons played records once, but it's a very different proposition than what he did to play alongside Bronny. And that's assuming Bryce even goes pro that early. The same report that laid out his 2027 outlook also floated a much more patient alternative, suggesting that perhaps the best long play for Bryce is to focus on where he is at and take advantage of the opportunity to develop at an elite program for a number of years rather than rushing out the door the way Bronny did after just one college season. There's also the question of where he'd even land. Bleacher Report ran through potential destinations and kept circling back to teams with actual ties to the family. One scenario had him landing with a franchise known for developing overlooked prospects, reasoning that if there's a team that excels at turning late-round draft picks into everyday NBA players, landing there could be the perfect thing for Bryce early in his career, since barring a standout college season, he's unlikely to be as NBA ready as top prospects. And like Bronny, he'll need time to develop, not to mention the chance to play under a coach LeBron already won championships with. But the more obvious scenario, the one that actually fits the reunion narrative, is the Lakers doing exactly what they did, with Bronny using a late pick on him purely because of who his father is and what that means for locker room chemistry and marketing. As one breakdown put it bluntly, it is not exactly a stretch to suggest a team that has LeBron James on the roster would be willing to draft another one of his sons, since basketball fans just saw it happen in 2024, meaning the Lakers are a potential landing spot for Bryce too. There's even a family connection floating as a backup plan if Arizona doesn't work out. Reports have pointed to Duquesne as a program that stayed in touch, and Duquesne was one of the programs that recruited him and offered a scholarship with a connection in place, since Duquesne head coach Drew Joyce III is lifelong friends with LeBron James from their high school playing days together. That's a name basketball fans will recognize instantly. Drew Joyce III coached alongside LeBron on that legendary Akron high school team, and the friendship never faded. So you've got three live threads all tangled together right now. LeBron's contract situation gives him the physical runway to wait if he wants to. Bryce's red shirt pushed his earliest real draft shot to 2027, and multiple teams, including the Lakers themselves, have obvious motivation to make a third James generation happen the same way they made the second one happen. None of those threads guarantee the reunion, but none of them rule it out either. What they do prove is that this isn't a rumor floating in a vacuum. It's a collision of a real contract, a real red shirt, and a real front office incentive, all pointing at roughly the same 2 or 3 years. So where does all of this actually leave the reunion everyone's been chasing since that viral post first broke through in the spring? Bryce is heading into his redshirt sophomore season at Arizona with real expectations attached for the first time. Coaches and scouts already expect him to be part of the rotation next season, with one report noting that with this experience, Bryce James is expected to have a significant part of the Wildcats campaign next year. That's the first real data point the NBA will get on whether he can actually play at this level, and it's coming a full year later than the timeline most fans assumed back when the hoax post went viral. LeBron, meanwhile, is heading into a season where his own future is genuinely unresolved. Not manufactured drama, not coy media day deflection. Actually unresolved by his own admission. He's said flatly he doesn't know how long he wants to keep playing, and he's separately said flatly that he's not waiting on Bryce's timeline to line up with his own. Those two statements aren't contradictions. They're just a man being honest that some things are out of his control, even the things he wants most. And that's really the heart of why this story keeps generating headlines every few months. It's not because there's a secret plan LeBron is executing behind the scenes. It's because two real clocks are ticking toward the same rough window and neither one is fully in his hands. Bryce's development depends on Tommy Lloyd's rotation, on how his shot and his frame keep improving, on whether Arizona's roster opens up the minutes. He needs to actually prove himself. LeBron's half depends on his own body, on how his 41-year-old game holds up over an 82-game season, and on whether the Lakers keep giving him a reason to stay. If both those things break the right way, if Bryce turns his redshirt year into a real sophomore breakout and declares in 2027, and LeBron's body and motivation hold up 1 or 2 more seasons. Past that, the version of history that already happened with Bronny becomes possible again. 3 James men, 1 franchise, 1 scorer's table. It's happened once. The infrastructure for it happening again is already sitting there. A father who's broken every longevity record in the sport. A Lakers front office that's shown it will draft a James just because the name is on the jersey, and a coaching friendship going back to high school that offers a backup path if Arizona doesn't pan out. But infrastructure isn't a guarantee, it's a runway. LeBron said it himself, in the most direct language he's used about any of this. His timeline and Bryce's might not line up, and he's not going to pretend otherwise just to keep a good story going. What he has done is keep playing, keep breaking records, and keep leaving the door open every single time reporters ask him to close it for good. Bryce, for his part, seems to genuinely not be chasing the spotlight version of this story either. He's talked about wanting to run his own race, about focusing on getting better every day rather than worrying about what happens next. That's not the posture of a kid rushing to force a reunion. It's the posture of someone trying to make sure that if the reunion happens, it happens because he actually earned a roster spot, not because his last name bought him one. So the plan, if you can even call it that, isn't some elaborate scheme LeBron is running behind closed doors. It's simpler and messier than that. It's a father who has already lived out this exact dream once, watching his youngest son take the long way toward maybe getting the same shot and refusing to promise anything until the 2 clocks actually